Gopi Jana Pallava Girivadadhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Panachari Yamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Pallava Girivadadhari Gopi Jana Pallava Girivadadhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Panachari Jamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Asatyate Satharine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnantimidandasya Jnananjanakshalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutha Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabhandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavaribhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Asadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami has written that a higher abode even than Vaikuntha, the eternal abode of the Lord, beyond material existence, is Mathura. Because it is in Mathura that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears within this world. And within the Mathura Mandala, the most special place is the forests of Vrindavan, where Krishna performs his most intimate pastimes, including the Rasa Lila. And the most intimate special place in the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan, the king of all mountains, wherein Krishna performs his most special pastimes with the gopis, with the gopas, the cows, with the calves. And Krishna revealed this hill to be not different from himself, and personally lifted it with his little finger for 7 days and 7 nights. And the most special place within Govardhan is Radha Kund, where Srimati Radharani's love fully manifests in a liquid form. And just as her love is most dear, in fact conquers the heart of Krishna, in the same way this Radha Kund is dear to Krishna. During Krishna's Leela, as we have discussed, Krishna wanted the residents of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda, to abandon all varieties of religion and surrender to his loving service. This is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva bhavena mokshayishami masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to me. I shall protect you from all reactions. Do not fear. The Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that when you water the root of the tree, every part of the tree is satisfied. And everything that exists has its roots, has its origin in Krishna, in God. Janmadya Shagyataha. The absolute truth is from whom everything emanates. When we water the root of the tree, the leaves, branches, twigs, bark, everything is satisfied. When we satisfy Krishna, Devashiku Taptinanam Pitadanam, there's a beautiful verse in Bhagavat that tells we fulfill all our obligations. All of the devatas, all of the spiritual or religious principles, all living entities, our forefathers, mothers. By satisfying Krishna, everything is fulfilled. Krishna told the cowherd men and ladies, Indra may be the king of the devas. Indra may be supplying to you, to us, the rain, without which there could be no life. Water is so important. The vast majority of the planet Earth is water. The major part of our bodies is water in various forms. Without water, there could be nothing to drink, nothing could grow. When we live in the cities, sometimes we're so disconnected from the reality around us that we think that water comes from the tap that we turn on. And food comes from the marketplace that we purchase it. But the reality that all food is coming from the earth, and earth can only provide food when there is sufficient water. Drought is devastating. We have been to villages in India where there have been massive droughts, and it's practical devastation. Utter poverty when there's drought. So here is the demigod, the Deva, who is supplying water. And the Brijavasis are farmers, and they take care of cows. So they are very directly aware that rain is not only their occupational sustenance, but their survival. In so many generations, there was this puja to show gratitude and honor to the person who gives us water. What it really comes to is a sense of gratitude. To acknowledge those people that are helping us so much. There can be no love without gratitude. culture within human civilization is very much about having the decency to honor, respect, and be grateful to people who help us. Parents help us. The mother, what she goes through while we're in the womb, so much trouble. But in the Vedic culture, there's celebrations and festivals for different stages of pregnancy, where actually the mother is feeling very happy. And she's celebrating the different transformations that are taking place within her own body. Because she's not just seeing it as something ordinary. You see, where there's affection, it could transform what appears to be pain into bliss. Bhaktivinoda Thakur offered a beautiful prayer that the difficulties, the trials, the tribulations, and even the sufferings that I endure in serving you, Krishna, is my greatest happiness. When we endure difficulty for the ones we love, our happiness is in pleasing the one we love. If a mother, even going through pain, is thinking, through this pain, I'm nourishing, I'm protecting, and I'm helping my child. There may be pain to the physical body, but it brings pleasure to the heart. And real happiness is a thing of the heart, not a thing of the body and mind. Real happiness has its origin in the soul's love for Krishna. So what Krishna was asking the Vrindavasis to do was something very radical, to completely disrupt a tradition that had been honored, to respect and show gratitude to the great King of the heavens who supplies rain for our sustenance, to worship a mountain. The cows, the Brahmins, and Govardhan Hill. And because the residents of Vrindavan, ultimately, whether they lived or died, was a detail. But how they made Krishna happy, that was the all in all, that was the everything. Because they had such love. They were not concerned with their own happiness, they weren't even concerned with liberation. Lord Shiva describes Chitraketu, a great devotee. Narayana parasarvena kutarshkana bhivite swargatavarga narakeshu abhitulyate darashana. Just see the nature of these devotees. Whether they're in heaven or whether they're in the most suffering conditions of hell makes absolutely no difference to them. Their only satisfaction, their only concern is their serving. In whatever situation they're serving, they're happy. And the reality is we could serve anywhere. There is no material situation that could ever be an impediment to bhakti, devotion, if we are sincere. So for the pleasure of Krishna, they were willing to disrupt the most major religious observance they did all year. And Indra was very angry. We discussed this the other day on Govardhan Puja. But Krishna manifested himself as Govardhan Hill. As the Brajavasis offered, on Krishna's suggestion, mountains and mountains and mountains of food, Krishna appeared in a gigantic form on top of Govardhan Hill. It was like two mountains in one. One was an animate mountain, which had a very Krishna-like form, and the other was a mountain, which was purely Krishna's form. And the mountain spoke, and then ate all the food, and asked for more. And he gave everything back. And it was such a festival. The festival of all festivals. The Brajavasis, led by Krishna and Balaram, they circumambulated Govardhan Hill, and that was the first parikrama. And since that time, the greatest saints, simple farmers and devotees, avatars, have come to this place to worship Govardhan. It is considered a most conducive place for the awakening of bhakti. In Sri Giriraj, such a history. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan, he came to Govardhan Hill. He was embracing the stones because he was seeing each one of them was personally the body of Krishna. Now that was just 500 years ago. So we can understand from a physical perspective, Govardhan Hill was looking very much the same as it is today. The same stones that we're seeing on Sri Giriraj are the stones that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seeing. But he was in the height of his ecstatic love, as Sri Radha's love for Krishna, because he was seeing that the mountain itself was the full-fledged body of Krishna, and every single little stone, big and small, was the body of Krishna. He was embracing and weeping. And out of his honor, he would not walk on the Govardhan Hill because he considered this is the body of my beloved Lord. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. This is an eternal spiritual truth. We are different than our body. This is the most fundamental principle of spiritual knowledge. You are not your body. You are the eternal soul that gives consciousness and life to the body. The Gita tells, the soul is passing through all the different changes of childhood to youth to old age. And at the time of death, the Atma, the living force, moves into another body. The very basis of bondage and misery is we're thinking, I am this body, and we're trying to find enjoyment by giving satisfaction to the body. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, it's like having a very nice cage for a bird and spending your whole time decorating the cage and completely forgetting to feed the bird. The bird is starving, suffering, and dying while we're putting ornaments on the cage. That is human civilization as we know it. We work so hard for these gross and subtle bodies of the physical and mental bodies, but we neglect the need of the soul. The Atma is hungry, is starving to taste the infinite, all-attractive, sweet love of Krishna, of God. The very propensity, the nature of the Atma is to ecstatically feel the happiness of giving its whole love to Krishna. And giving our whole love to every living being who is part of Krishna. But Krishna, he is his body. Because on the spiritual level, there is no material, temporary coverings of ignorance. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Krishna is the Parabrahman. He is the Supreme Brahman. He is the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. And his body is made out of pure spiritual substance. His body and him, there is no difference. And even in our liberated state, in the spiritual world, there is no difference between our bodies and our souls. Our souls actually have an eternal, beautiful, loving form in relationship to God's supreme eternal form. So when Lord Chaitanya was seeing Govardhan Hill, he was seeing Krishna, his beloved. It wasn't just a matter of making an offense to Krishna by stepping on him or being disrespectful. That's a very preliminary state of trying to live according to spiritual principles. But out of love, he couldn't bear putting his feet on the beautiful body of his beloved. And Gopal, or Srinathji, the Murti of Sri Madhavendra Puri, his Param Guru, was on the top of Govardhan Hill. This is very much the prominent deity of our Sampradaya. Krishna, who was originally established by Vajranabh, the son of Aniruddha, the son of Pradyumna, who was the son of Krishna, and installed on the top of Giriraj this beautiful, beautiful form. Lord Chaitanya had heard about him from his guru. He was yearning, longing for the darshan of Gopal. But still, out of love for Giriraj, he could not go on that hill. But the deity of Krishna is Krishna. And in the role of a devotee, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was yearning for Krishna, and Krishna was yearning for Lord Chaitanya. And since Lord Chaitanya wouldn't come to see him out of love, the Lord came down to see Lord Chaitanya out of love. And he played a very, very beautiful pastime where there was a rumor. And in that rumor, it was spread that there was an army of invaders that were coming to Govardhan to destroy the deities in the temples. So the pujaris, the priests, secretly brought Sri Gopal off the hill. And as soon as he came down to the ground level, Lord Chaitanya was there to greet him. And they went to a special little secret village. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the whole time Gopal was in that village, Lord Chaitanya was worshiping him, offering his body, mind, words, love, dancing in sweet ecstasy, and giving the highest pleasure to Krishna by inducing everyone in the village all around to join him in the Sankirtan of the holy names. As long as Srinathji was in that village, Lord Chaitanya stayed there. And when everybody understood that there was actually never an army that was ever even planning to come, it was just a rumor, and they brought Krishna back, and Lord Chaitanya was dancing and singing with his arms raised in kirtan procession, and when they came to the foot of Giriraj, Lord Chaitanya bowed down as Gopal climbed the hill with his devotees to be placed back in his temple. And since that time, 500 years ago, those who follow Lord Chaitanya, Mahajano Yena Katasa Panta, the path of perfection is to follow in the footsteps of great souls. None of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya would go on Govardhan Hill. Other sampradayas do. And it's perfectly fine for them to do so. Krishna sees the nature of our love. But it is the nature of our love to follow in the footsteps of how our previous acharyas and how our beloved Lord taught us to show our love. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami lived most of his life right at Radha Kund. Sanatana Goswami lived a good portion of his life at Chakaleshwar Mahadev Temple, at Manasi Ganga. Year after year after year, never once did they go on the hill. They would circumambulate it from around every day and worship with love and devotion Krishna in the form of Giriraj. But still, Srinathji Gopal was on top of the mountain. They all longed to see him, but they wouldn't go up. Out of love for Gopal, they wouldn't go to see Gopal. Love can be a very mystical, mysterious thing. Because love is something that springs from the very inner depths of our souls. It doesn't arise from the ever-changing tides of our mind or intellect. So Sri Gopal decided he was yearning to see his devotees. So again, there was another rumor, just like the other one. This is about 2 generations later. And he came down to Mathura to hide for over a month. And Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Radhanath Swami, and the Goswamis, they all lived there. And just worshipped Sri Gopal to their heart's content with pure love until he was brought back up in the mountain. Rupa Goswami had Bhajan Kutir around Govardhan and Radha, Raghunath Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shamananda. They went on Govardhan Parikrama with Raghava Pandit, who lived in a cave just near Govardhan Hill. The cave is still there today. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur spent most of his life here at Govardhan. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he wrote Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita here at Govardhan. Many of the greatest Vaishnava literatures of our Goswamis and their descendants, Acharyas, were written here at Govardhan. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they had Bhajan Kutirs here near Govardhan. And our own beloved Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, whose disappearance day we are celebrating tomorrow. How much he taught us the sanctity of this holy place. When his body was in such a state that he couldn't walk, he couldn't sit up. He was at the very, very end of his body's physical existence. At that time, he told the devotees he wanted to do Govardhan Parikrama. It's 14 miles around, 21 kilometers. He said, Srila Prabhupada, you can't even walk. You can't even sit up. And he said, take me on a bullock cart. That means a cart, wooden cart driven by oxen. And his doctor said, within the first few minutes, the shaking of an ox cart, he cannot survive. It's humanly, physically impossible. He cannot survive. Srila Prabhupada, no, take me. I want to do Govardhan Parikrama. What is Govardhan Parikrama? It's not a ritual. It's an expression of love. To circumambulate Govardhan Hill is a way of expressing the depth of love and gratitude for Giriraj. When Sanatan Goswami was doing his Govardhan Parikramas every day, even in his old age, he wasn't just doing it for his spiritual purification. He was doing it as an expression of his love. Can you imagine the troubles it takes? But because that offering of love is so pleasing to Krishna, Sanatana Goswami was willing through great efforts, even in old age, every single day to do the parikrama. Because whatever I feel, Krishna's pleased. And Krishna was so worried about him because he loved Krishna so much. Krishna appeared as a little boy and said, "You're too old. You don't have to do this anymore." And Sanatana Goswami said, No, I promised Krishna in my heart I would do this every day, so I must do it. But you're so old and it's so difficult. And the little boy, he didn't reveal himself as Krishna immediately. He went on the hill and played his flute and caused the mountain a stone to melt, and his footprint was there. And he came down and said, "Now you see this is Krishna's footprint." And this stone, every stone is as good as Govardhan, the whole mountain. So you go 7 times around this stone and it's just as good as doing Govardhan Parikrama. And this is what will please Krishna. This was the nature of the relationship that they had. You see these physical bodies from the perspective of bhakti. Its purpose is an instrument to express our love, or in the neophyte state, our intent to love. Srila Prabhupada told us that you could express your love by your enthusiasm. Srila Prabhupada said, if you are enthusiastic, that is a way of expressing your love. It's like Giriraj Maharaj was saying, if somebody does something for you and they say, "I really don't want to do this, I don't want to, I have no happiness, I have no enthusiastic, I'm supposed to do it, so here, take this." Does that give you satisfaction? Well, if we just do things for Krishna because we have to, it's better than not doing it. But if we're enthusiastic to please Krishna, that's an expression of love. Somebody asked Prabhupada, what if we don't have enthusiasm? Srila Prabhupada said, that doesn't matter. Just act enthusiastic. Whether you feel it or not, just act enthusiastic. And someone may say that acting enthusiasm is making a show. If you're acting enthusiastic because you want to get something out of it for your own selfish ego, then it is a show. If we act enthusiastic so that people think, I am a great devotee, I am very advanced, I am very special, I am very blessed and empowered, then that's just a show. But if we feel no enthusiasm, but we act enthusiastic simply because that act of enthusiasm will give pleasure to Krishna, then act of enthusiasm is actually an expression of our intent to love. And through actions, through our body and our mind and our words, as ways to express our intent to love, that's the way that we attract the mercy that brings that love. In the Damodar Lila, which we were discussing the other day, Krishna's mother, Yashoda Mai, was trying to bind him with that rope, and she was tying more and more and more and more ropes, but every time it was always the width of 2 fingers too small. What is it that will compensate for the rope of our love to actually bind Krishna? Krishna binds us by the rope of his love, and we in turn bind Krishna by the rope of our love. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells that one of those fingers is the enthusiasm and the sincerity of our effort. And when that is there, it attracts Krishna's mercy, which is the other finger. And that mercy is what actually removes the veil of Maya, so that the natural, eternal love that is within our heart, the prema, awakens and manifests. Maya is very strong. Is Maya, consisting of the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, is so powerful. Guna means a rope. It's a different kind of rope. The gunas are like ropes that keep us bound to our egos and to our selfish attachments, and through them keep us bound to miseries of our body and mind, miseries caused by other living beings, miseries caused by natural disturbances, birth after birth after birth. But when we just take shelter of Krishna, by Krishna's mercy, Raga Desha Vimuktaishtu Vishayanindriyashta, by just following these regulative principles of bhakti with enthusiasm and sincerity, we can attract the mercy of the Lord, and by that mercy we can be rescued from these ropes of material existence. The screen of ignorance and illusion is removed. Krishna Surya Samaya Haya Andhakar. When the sun rises, all darkness is naturally dispelled. Krishna is like the sun. And Maya is like darkness, illusion. When that sun rises, then we see who we really are, who we've always been. Jivera Swarupoy Krishna and Nityadas, we're eternal lovers of Krishna. And we see Krishna. We see Krishna in our hearts. We see Krishna as the object of our love in every situation. And in that state, this body, this mind, and everything in this world becomes a wonderful facility for devotional service, for bhakti. Within this world that we're living in, many of the deepest secrets of the spiritual world have been revealed to the world from here at Govardhan Hill. By Krishna himself, by Sri Radharani, and through their greatest loving devotees. Through their words, through their literatures. Raghunath Das Goswami was given that Govardhan Shila by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was always moist with the tears of Lord Chaitanya's love. He kept it close to his heart for 3 years, continuously. And out of his love for his devotee, he gave that Shila and the Gunjamala to Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami considered, in giving me the Govardhan Shila, he has given me eternal residence at Govardhan Hill. And by giving me the Gunjamala, he has given me the shelter of the love of Sri Radha. For Raghunath Das Goswami, There was nothing else that had any interest to him. He already was a billionaire. Young, beautiful. He didn't leave things out of frustration. He left everything behind because by associating with saints like Haridas Thakur, he tasted something so infinitely more meaningful and beautiful and satisfying in Krishna and his names, that these things had meant nothing for him. People work so hard for money, for prestige, for property. The whole world is under that spell. And in Kali Yuga, that's practically the all in all. But in the lives of these great Goswamis, we find a whole nother dimension and perspective of reality. They considered a single speck of dust in Vrindavan to be more valuable than all the wealth and riches of the universe. One time our Gurudev Srila Prabhupada was in Denver, Colorado, in a very beautiful park that the city obviously spent many millions and millions of dollars to make so beautiful, with lakes and flowers and gardens and bushes and trees and lawns. And Srila Prabhupada was walking through it with a few devotees. And he said, you see, people are working so very, very hard to maintain this place. And we don't do anything, we just come and enjoy it. But the enjoyment is not in owning something. Because with proprietorship comes so many anxieties. Yes? I'm a little Swami. I go to people's houses. Sometimes they let me stay somewhere on the floor in their home. Sometimes they give me more, but I usually just take the little floor. And I'm eating their food and I'm sleeping. And I'm just happy. But they're struggling like anything to maintain that place. And little Swamis and Brahmacharis, we just come and say, hey, well, we do kirtan. We have kirtan there. We do some Hari Katha there. Touch their little babies' heads. And I really believe that we enjoy their houses probably 1,000,000 times more than they enjoy their houses. This is such when did you come? I was just waiting for the message, so I'm going to end right now. I'm sorry I didn't see. So what is the wealth? Mahaprabhu Bhakta ke Nirvairagya Pradhan. In regard to Sri Radhanath Swami, Chaitanya Charitamrita says that renunciation is the basic principle that sustains the lives of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And seeing that renunciation gives Lord Chaitanya such satisfaction. But what is renunciation? One time a devotee asked Prabhupada, I want to renounce everything. And Srila Prabhupada told him, nothing is yours, so you have nothing to renounce. That was a striking reply. And then Srila Prabhupada said, the only thing you have to renounce is the illusion that you have anything to renounce. Yukta Vairagya is what Rupa Goswami taught us. Sri Rupa Goswami was living under different trees every night, begging for some roti or some chickpeas. But he was in the highest ecstasies of the gopis' love for Krishna. But he taught this principle of Yukta Vairagya. Real renunciation is not just to give up things, but to give up the ego and to give up the selfish enjoying spirit and to use whatever best way we can serve Krishna. One time Srila Prabhupada was in New Dwarka in Los Angeles. He had a very nice room that the devotees made for him. Devotees worked so hard to put beautiful original art of Krishna's Leelas. It was simple but so nice. And Srila Prabhupada was sitting with one of his disciples. He said, do you remember I showed you my rooms at Radha Damodar Temple? In those days it was just clay walls and clay floor. He said, I long to be back there. But for me to stay here in this beautiful room is renunciation. Because this is how I could best serve my Guru. This is how I could best reach people's hearts with Krishna's message. Srila Prabhupada put so much energy to build temple in Mayapur, to build temple in Bombay, and Krishna Balaram temple. One of his followers was one of the leaders of the construction. And in those days, a foreign person working with these construction companies in Uttar Pradesh was really difficult. At every stage they were trying to cheat. There was so much negotiating and bargaining, and then they would, after negotiating and bargaining and the trucks on the way, they would weigh it, and then they'd take it off and sell it to somebody else on the way, and then come and say, this is what you bought. And it was so much death threats and everything else. And this devotee said to Prabhupada, everyone in Vrindavan is saying, Radhe, Radhe, I want to do that. The Goswamis, why so much anxiety? Srila Prabhupada explained, whatever way we could best serve, that is the highest renunciation. Whether it means we're doing Dandavat Parikrama around Govardhan Hill, or whether it means we're flying in a jet plane to speak in the British Parliament. Whatever way Krishna wants us to serve, renunciation is to serve with all our heart. Without expecting anything for ourselves except the privilege to serve. And Govardhan is also named Haridas Varya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Vinod Thakur explains that this gopi who spoke this verse is Srimati Radharani. If anyone knows who is a devotee, it's Srimati Radharani, who is the very reservoir and source of all devotion and all love forever. And she is saying that Giriraj Govardhan is Haridasvarya, the best of all the devotees, because he gives the greatest pleasure to Krishna. Although Govardhan is Krishna himself, Govardhan, like Lord Chaitanya, is taking the role of a devotee as well. And why is he the greatest devotee? Because he gives the greatest happiness to Krishna's devotees. Krishna, Madhbhakta Puja Vyavika. Krishna tells, one who worships me is not as dear to me as one who pleases my devotees. Govardhan is giving fresh grass that is fragrant and soft and nutritious and gives the best milk. Because the cows, when they eat the grass, it tastes so good and it smells so good and it's so soft and it makes them so healthy. And most of all, the only reason the cows are eating the milk is eating the grass is to give milk to Krishna, and that grass fulfills the cow's desires by creating the best milk. The best way we could please a devotee is by facilitating them to please Krishna. And the best way we can facilitate devotees to please Krishna is to facilitate devotees to give pleasure to other devotees. This is the message here. And the rocks of Govardhan Hill, when the cows, the calves, the gopis, the gopas, Krishna, Balaram, those stones in the summer they're cool, in the winter they're warm. And whenever any of Krishna devotees step on them, they become very soft like flower petals. And the waterfalls, the lakes, they're like nectar, cool in the summer, warm in the winter. And they are so nectarine that when the cows, the calves, the gopas, the gopis, whoever drinks it, they roll in the dust in ecstasy and cry. It's so delicious. And what is that deliciousness? It doesn't just taste good to their tongues, but Govardhan, Haridasvarya's love is so much infused, like the tears of his ecstasy into that water, that when they're drinking it, they're becoming infused with Giriraj's love for Radha and Krishna. And by that association, even Krishna becomes intoxicated. And providing beautiful caves for Krishna's devotees to relax. In this way, Srimati Radharani is saying that the greatest service we could render is to please the Lord's devotees. And Radharani, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Sri Radha. And he taught this principle. Gopi Parthur Padakamalayora Dasa Dasa Das Anudas. Highest aspiration, not to become God, not to become a powerful mystic, but to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, because there's nothing that gives greater happiness to Krishna than that. And Krishna tells in Gita, one who gives this message, one who gives the nectar of pure devotional service, bhakti, to the people of this world, to the devotees and to the people in general, and awakens their love for Krishna, there is no one more dear to than me. Lord Chaitanya said, I'm a fruit vendor, and I have so many of these fruits of love of God, I can't give them out by myself. I'm asking my devotees, please help me to give them out. And there's no one who is more dear to me than that. tomorrow is the most holy day of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. We're speaking about Giriraj Govardhana's Haridas Varya, who Sri Radharani is praising as the greatest devotee. What our beloved Guru Maharaj did. Such unconditional compassion, selfless service. He was living in the very heart of the place where Krishna is eternally performing his Rasalila in Seva Kunj. And when he was just going on 70 years old, he left that place to travel around the world 11 times. So much trouble. And dealing with people like us, so much trouble. But he never gave up. That was love. That is the spirit of Haridas Varya. And today we are very honored that one of the very dearmost, beloved, exemplary disciples of Srila Prabhupada has taken Srila Prabhupada's mission of compassion into his heart of hearts. He is going to speak to us. One of my very dearest friends. He is historically and to the present day one of the greatest speakers of Krishna consciousness, one of the greatest distributors of Srila Prabhupada's transcendental books, inspiring and teaching hundreds, thousands of others in that spirit. His own personal sadhana is incredible. He lives with wife, little home, and yet every day he does Giriraj Puja, Shalagram Puja, Gornitai Puja, Prabhupada Puja for several hours. It's incredible. And then how he's inspiring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Because he has been inspired. He has understood with gratitude the mercy that he has been given. And Srila Prabhupada told us, if you want to repay me what I have given you, just accept it and share it with others. The origin of the highest realm of this expression is here at Govardhan Hill. Yes, Srila Prabhupada in his last days, he said, take me on parikrama of Govardhan. But you will die, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, what more glorious death would there be? But it will be so painful. He said, it will only be happiness. And then there was a dispute between two different camps of Prabhupada's followers. Some were saying, he said we do it, we must do it. And others saying, we can't bear to see him suffer and die like this. Impossible, we can't do it. And there was very mystical situation. And one of Prabhupada's dear godbrothers, Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, came to see Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he said, Prabhupada, you're driving us crazy like this. And Prabhupada said to Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, he said, see how much they love me. He was just churning their love for him, churning their devotion for him. Different people have different moods with different understandings, and Prabhupada accepted and loved both of them and was just churning that. But at the same time, it was one of his final lessons. The sacredness and importance of Govardhan Hill. Srila Prabhupada served Sri Giriraj. I traveled him around. He was doing parikrama of the planet, spreading the congregational chanting of the holy name. And then in his last days, in his heart of hearts, he performed the parikrama of Sri Giriraj. And it is my great honor and my great pleasure to introduce one of my very dearmost friends, God brothers, and one of my greatest inspirations, Vaishnava. Everyone, please welcome him very enthusiastically.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Shakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Jai Jai, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai Gopal 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 Jai Jai. Hey, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai, Jai Jai. Radha Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Go Premanande Haribo, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Shri Harinam Mahamantra Ki, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Go Premanande, Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunnudatam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Slapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatana Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Sadvajutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyashcha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande Gaur. Very happy to see all of you tonight, and very happy that for a few minutes I was sitting next to His Holiness Radhanath Swami. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I offer my respectful obeisances to all my very dear God brothers and God sisters who are my life and soul. And I offer my humble obeisances to all of you. It's rare in this world to find pure devotion. muktanam apisidhanam narayana parayana, to find someone whose heart is pure, that is, one who has only a desire to please Krishna. It is the desire within the heart of everyone that exudes into their daily life. Whatever I carry in my heart comes out through my eyes, it comes out in the tone of my voice, it comes out in the movements that I make through life. We vote with our feet where we go. You have all come here tonight. You voted with your feet to come here to Govardhan, to drop whatever else you were doing and to sit in this holy place and hear Krishna Katha. And it is that desire within the heart that drives a person wherever they go. In fact, Ramananda Roy told Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the heart is like the charioteer. The body is just the chariot, but the chariot driver is here. So the important aspect of life is what we're carrying in our heart. And to find one who has pure motivation in the heart, who is free from envy of others. Jiva Goswami says, Matsara, envy means the inability to tolerate the eminence of another. And Rupa Goswami says, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadrita dikshasti chet prantibishta bhajantam isham shushushaya bhajana vignamananyamanya indari shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. That the topmost devotee is one who is free from the propensity to criticize others, that pinching that closes my heart when I see another successful, when I see someone else happy. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one of his poems, Amara Jivana, he's speaking to exemplify the pain in the heart of a conditioned soul, that when I see others happy, I become unhappy. When I see others suffering, then I become very glad. This is the reversed condition of mature life, diseased condition of mature life. Nindari shunya, to find someone who's free from this propensity of ninda, to find fault, especially in others. This is rare in this world. And this is what we're after. This is what we really want, this state of heart, this purity of heart. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that this can be had from a pure devotee. When the fire in one's home goes out, then one goes to the neighbor and says, please give me a coal, some spark to light the fire again. And when the spirit of devotion is lacking, one must go to someone who has this utsahan, this enthusiasm for giving Krishna to everyone, for seeing Krishna everywhere. And this is the quality in Srila Prabhupada, the quality from the core of his heart, which effected so much change in the world, which attracted people. Everyone, living beings are sensitive. They know when they're being cheated. And they know when something's real or not. Of course, they may not know in certain instances, and they may become cheated, but ultimately, people, living entities, are sensitive. They know when someone's their well-wisher. And everyone's looking for that quality in someone else. And so, when someone has that within their heart, that unalloyed quality, that feeling of wishing well to all living entities. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tatuna vijlupsate yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva vijanataha tatrako mohakashoka ekatvam manupashyata. One who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and sees the Supreme Lord within everything never hates anything or any being. One who always sees all living beings as spiritual sparks in quality one with the Lord becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? And this is the quality of a pure devotee. Sees everything in relationship with Krishna, sees all living entities as his parts and parcels. And all his movements in this world are meant to do good for others, to truly benefit someone else. There's no ulterior motive. And people can feel this. A veterinary doctor told me recently that in the operating room, even animals can tell that the doctor is trying to do something to help the patient. And not all the time, but in remarkable ways, animals can sense that the doctor's there trying to help me, and they cooperate. Living entities are sensitive. They're part and parcel of Krishna. And so, everyone's hoping in this world for that kind of association of someone who's truly loving, who's truly their well-wisher. So when Srila Prabhupada came to America and mingled with people and started his campaign to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when people came forward and sensed this power from within the core of Srila Prabhupada's heart, that he had no ulterior motive, he wanted nothing from anyone, he only came to give. As the power of his kirtan from sitting in one place, and the sound vibration of his kirtan attracted people. This is the great secret of spreading Krishna consciousness. It's not a matter of facility. People have lots of facility around the world for various projects, and it doesn't mean they'll be successful. But the real power is this quality in the heart. If someone sits down on the North Pole and has this quality of purity within their heart and sings Krishna's names, Krishna will arrange to send all kinds of remarkable people, living entities, to come there to be guided by that person. And that's what happened when Srila Prabhupada came to the West and began to sing Hare Krishna and to speak about the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes in the early lectures in 1966, in Dr. Mishra's ashram in New York, I've been listening to these recently, over and over again, 1966 lectures, Srila Prabhupada in New York City. And it sounds like there's sometimes only one or two people in the room that are responsive, that are listening. But the enthusiasm with which Srila Prabhupada is speaking is palpable. And still that vibration is going on, inspiring people. So, from that purity in Srila Prabhupada's heart, now people all over the world, all of us, are here sitting and taking shelter of the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and changing our direction to go back home, back to Godhead, because of that power in the heart of Srila Prabhupada. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the pure devotee has qualities like water. This was the Avaduta Brahman who had 24 gurus. And when Maharaj Yadu met the Avadhuta Brahmin, they asked him, how did you become enlightened? And he said, I have so many gurus. And he named the mountain, the tree, the prostitute, the Karari hawk, the arrow maker. And he said, water. And water, he said, has qualities. It's beautiful in its sound. When you hear running water, it's pleasing. It soothes your heart and mind. It's also clear, you can see. Transparent, it shows what's on the other side. And it's purifying. If you touch water, you become purified. So he said that when I see the qualities of water, I understand the qualities of a pure devotee. And the pure devotee is transparent. We can experience just even in an instant from the glance of a pure devotee the feeling of the spiritual world. In fact, this is how Narada Muni was so much benefited just by the glance of the sages who came to his house. And there are prayers in the Shastra which talk about how the perfection of the eye is to see the pure devotee. Perfection of the body is to touch the pure devotee. And actually, this is the most exciting moment to see a pure devotee. A Vaishnava who is completely pure and dedicated to Krishna. So such devotees clarify for everyone else what is the purpose of life. Make it very clear. Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is an example. In the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada says that one lady had asked him to recommend a version of the Bhagavad Gita, but he couldn't recommend anything. And therefore, he wrote his own commentary to present as it is, to clarify that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Surrender to Krishna. And it's very pleasing to hear, just as water is very pleasing, it's very pleasing to hear the sound vibration that comes from a pure devotee. Just that, hearing that sound vibration, as Srila Prabhupada said about his spiritual master, he couldn't exactly understand everything he was saying at first, but he knew it was the topmost thing. So he sat and he listened. And just by listening to the sound vibration of someone whose heart is completely pure, then I become transformed. So the sound vibration, like water, it's the sound we're all looking for. Many sounds in this world, but that sound that comes from the unmotivated heart of a pure devotee, it clarifies everything. It gives us the direction back home, back to Godhead. And water is transparent. Srila Prabhupada's books have given transparency to the science of Krishna consciousness. Anyone can take these books and read them and understand for themselves how to become a pure devotee of the Lord, how to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. When I met Srila Prabhupada in 1973 in San Francisco, we were part of a book distribution party, and the temple president introduced us as book distributors and told Prabhupada that we were distributing a certain quantity of books. And Srila Prabhupada said, "You must also read my books." He said, "I've not written these just for selling, but I want you to read these books and become pure devotees and go back home, back to Godhead." So they are unusual in the world. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the commentary by Srila Prabhupada, and the Bhagavad Gita. We have such a feeling for these books that we don't want to go anywhere where they're not present. A few years ago, someone invited me to someone's house in Vrindavan. Actually, I wasn't sure about the situation. Someone said, well, philosophically, we're not sure where they're at. And I went there, and when we got to the house, I said, where are the books? Do they have Srila Prabhupada's books in the house? And they said, no, they don't like those books. They have some other books. And I said, I have a stomach ache. I have to go home. I can't take lunch here. This is the quality of Srila Prabhupada's books, that when they come into someone's home, they transform that place into Goloka Vrindavan. And people who regularly hear from them develop the same qualities and the same clarity about the purpose of life. So the pleasing sound that is generated from the pure devotee, Prabhupada's chanting, his bhajan, which goes out into his books, into the hearts of his followers and those who listen to him, and then they broadcast it to others. The clarity which he gives, like water, so that people can see immediately what the goal of life is, and they become very happy. And purification. Everyone can become purified by the association of a pure devotee. It doesn't matter what position one comes from. We were just reading that tonight in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto. Any position, if you come in contact with a pure devotee, you become purified by his or her association. So, on this eve of the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, I oftentimes remember the poem that Prabhupada wrote when he was in Vrindavan, lamenting the passing away of his spiritual master. And in this poem, the refrain is, on this day of your disappearance, I am utterly despondent. What does it mean to be utterly despondent after the passing of one's spiritual master? The utter despondence. That having lost that guidance, the light of one's life, the main attraction of one's life, has left our vision. It's Tirobhav. He's disappeared from our sight. Then opens up a new responsibility. That person who is giving shelter, who is answering questions, who is there to encourage everyone. And Prabhupada said, that's why I flew around the world 11 times. That's why he went to so many places, to encourage my disciples. That's what he said, just to encourage them. What does one do when that person is no longer visible? One becomes utterly despondent. But there's also a responsibility that comes from that one must take up the instruction. One has to build something from the ashes of that despondency. One must take the sound vibration and make it part of one's life and carry on the instruction of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada says, in the absence of the spiritual master, the instruction should become the life and soul of the disciple. So the entire ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness movement, is going on with this mood to carry forth this purity of heart that Srila Prabhupada gave us, to spread it all over the world, to give everyone an opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead as well. We have to have a mission in life, otherwise we'll be distracted by so many other ideas. There are many, many, many good causes in the world, but there is one great cause. We should not lose sight of the great cause because of the many good causes. And the one great cause is to develop this purity of heart and to give it to as many other people as possible. This is the work that has to be done. This is the mission. This is the exciting feature of life, is to move for the sake of giving others the benefit of going back home, back to Godhead, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. In one of Srila Prabhupada's purports in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that even a worm who follows the instructions of a pure devotee can go back to Godhead. The vision of Srila Prabhupada was to give everyone an opportunity to go back to Godhead. He was very much in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, who said that, I don't want to take Mona Vrat. I don't want to sit in the Himalayas and meditate. All these processes may or may not be successful. But what I would like to do is give everyone an opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. Because he said, I've received this mercy from my spiritual master, and I want to share it with everyone in the world. How could I give up his service, he says. So this is how one deals with utter despondency. The darkness that ensues after the great Acharya leaves the world and confusion comes, that one has to take that clarity of the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and apply it in one's own life. And we are reading tonight in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says that when one takes the instructions by hearing them and then gives them to others, then he becomes doubly empowered. Because when you give it to others, then it comes alive. You actually see in the hearts of others how it really works, how others are becoming transformed, and then you get more faith. You see actually that it's alive. It's a live thing. It's not academic. It really works. That people from any position in life, the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says, Kiratahu Nanda Pulinda Pulkasha Virashumba Yavanaka Sadaya Yenecha Papa Yarapashraya Shaya Shujanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. He says, doesn't matter who it is, Vishnu's power comes through the Vaishnavas and can purify anyone. So when we align ourselves with that instruction and the mood that's been passed down to us through Srila Prabhupada, and we take the mission has to be there. We have to have this spirit, a missionary spirit. Otherwise, life is dead. If I don't give it out, it dies. When I give it out, it grows. The great mystery of spiritual life. The more I give, the more it increases. The members of the Panchatattva broke open the storehouse of love of God and distributed the contents. They ate, they distributed, and the more they gave it out, the more the contents increased. This is how to deal with utter despondency on the disappearance of the great Acharya, is to take the mission and to see it come alive in the lives and hearts of other people, wherever they're from. And now you can go anywhere in the world. In China, Vietnam. I went to Vietnam a couple of years ago. And there we found people interested in Krishna consciousness. China, now all over China, people are chanting Hare Krishna. And any place in the world that we go, we find people chanting Hare Krishna and becoming happy, taking the message of Krishna consciousness. So, I take this day, this disappearance day, to be a time of renewal, a time when we can remember the message of the Acharya and bring it into our lives in a profound way. Srila Prabhupada left behind him the great treasures of his books, which he asked us to distribute to people all over the world in as many languages as possible. Print as many books in as many languages and distribute it all over the world. Now we have books even in Farsi. Satyanarayan Prabhu has printed this book in Farsi. I believe it's the Easy Journey to Other Planets. Normally on the front cover of the Easy Journey to Other Planets has a picture of a yogi and he's meditating on Radha and Krishna. But on the Farsi version, you see the yogi meditating, but there's nothing. Because in the countries that they're distributing that book, they don't want to scare people right away. But we're finding, even in America, many Farsi-speaking people. I met a Muslim mullah when I was at a outdoor event, and he had a beard. He spoke Farsi, and I told him that we were distributing these spiritual books, and I told him that we believe in Allah, and he asked me that, do I pray every day? I said, yes. He said, how many times? I said, 16 times at least. And he gave me a big hug. He said, oh, this is very nice. And he bought this Farsi book. As far as I know, it's the only Farsi book that we have. And he hung around for a long time, and he wanted to know where all the other Farsi books were. But you can imagine the power of one book, from Srila Prabhupada's purity of his heart, which he gave that vibration, and now it's been translated into Farsi. And what path that book will take from this Muslim mullah. He's taking it back to Afghanistan. You don't know what's going to happen. Now that's the excitement of a mission. You just don't know what's going to happen, but you know something's going to happen because of the power of the sound vibration. But you get to see it for yourself. You get to sit up close and actually watch how it affects people. And I often wonder about all the people that we speak to and preach to. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, yang vapi smaran bhavam tajanti kalevaram. Whatever your bhava is at the time of death, you'll attain that. And so many people in a materialistic life, they do so many sinful things, and at the time of death, that's what they remember, all the sins. And then they're dragged down again. But for those engaged in this missionary work, you're doing so many things to help others, to give Krishna consciousness to others. So you'll remember all those things when you die. At the time leaving the body, you'll remember. You can't remember them all now. Think back to all the people you met and all the people you talked to chant Hare Krishna mantra. But you'll remember it when you leave this body. This is the great benefit of preaching, that you actually, you become infused yourself. You become enthused and full of enthusiasm, Krishna consciousness yourself. Just teaching people the Maha Mantra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did this. He went all over the countryside, and he'd go to people's homes and he would teach them, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. And so now, we can do that too. Who can stop you? Who can stop you if you decide to go out and teach everyone in your village to chant Hare Krishna? Tell me, who can stop you? Even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he started the Sankirtan movement in Navadvip, the police tried to stop him, his followers. And he said, let's have a big march on the house of the Qazi. So no one can stop you. But one thing, when you teach people individually how to chant Hare Krishna, you'll see something very amazing. Like in America, on the streets, when we distribute a book, after people buy the book, we tell them, now I want to teach you a prayer. Do you believe in the power of prayer? And they say, yeah. Because it's a very pious country. It's amazing. People believe in the power of prayer. So we say, I'll teach you this prayer from the Sanskrit language. They're names of God, and they're meant to wake up pure love of God in your heart. And then I hand them a little card that has the Maha Mantra on the card, and I say, now I'm going to teach you this mantra. Are you ready? Are you? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande. So now what do you think people do when we teach them that prayer, the Hare Krishna mantra? First of all, Shastra, Nikila Shuti Mauli Ratnamala Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanga. I Mukta Kalera Pasyamanam Paritasnam Harinama Shamshrayami. Rupa Goswami says, if you look within all the Vedas, you do a search and you go within and you find the very essence of all the Vedas, it's the Hare Krishna mantra, it's the holy name. So when somebody's chanting the holy name, Aho Vatashva Vachato Garyanda Jivagre Vartite Namatubhyam Tipusta Paste Juhuhus Asnararya Brahmana Churnama Granantiyete. Devahuti says to Kapila Dev, oh, what a wonderful thing this is if someone just says it with the tip of their tongue, Hare Krishna. It means they've performed all the ritualistic sacrifices in the Vedas in their previous life. They've gone to all the holy places. They've done every prerequisite to come to this position to say Hare Krishna. So what does it feel like to give someone the Hare Krishna mantra on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, who passed it on to us? There's nothing better. Now even better than that, sometimes we show people the mantra and we say, okay, I'm going to teach you this mantra. And now, are you ready? And they say, wait a minute. Hold on. Or even more, there's a couple, a man and a woman. I hand the card to the man and I say, are you ready to chant? Repeat after me. And the one says, wait, stop. Don't do it. I say, why? And she says, you don't know what's in that. What's going to happen to you if you say that mantra? You don't know what's going to happen to you. Your whole life could change, turn upside down. And I'm thinking, she's pretty smart. She actually knows. And I said, living entities are sensitive. They know when they see something like that. But this is Hare Krishna. Anything can happen, Hare Krishna. So this is what we get from the great Acharya, from Srila Prabhupada. It brings this down. And the excitement is to take it up, to take up the mission. Not just to take it, but take it and give it. Take it and give it. Give it to everyone. This is the great need in the world today. People need this vibration that is emanating from the heart of Srila Prabhupada. They need it. They have to have it. There's no other remedy. The anxiety has become so thick all over the world. There's no escaping it anywhere. People have to have this. And it's in your hands. It's in your hands. A little bit goes a long way. One book in Farsi going to Afghanistan, who knows what that could do? It could bring down a whole empire, the words in that book. So Srila Prabhupada emphasized, print as many books in as many languages and distribute throughout the whole world. But distribute. The more we give it out, the more it increases. This is a spiritual mathematics. This is what to remember on this day of Srila Prabhupada's departure, when we're utterly despondent. When there are so many differences of opinion all over the world, even in spiritual circles. The only place to take shelter is in the mission, in the words of the Acharya. So this life is so short, but we have the greatest opportunity, to take full advantage of the blessing of the greatest Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is the greatest opportunity. Anarpita, Chiram Chirap Karuna Yavatirna Kalo. Anarpita, I was sitting next to Fakir Mohan at Prashadam the other day, and he was telling me hundreds of meanings of Anarpita. And he said, Anarpita, which Anarpita Chiram Chirap, for a long time it says, Lord Chaitanya is thinking, the Lord Krishna is thinking, I haven't distributed this kind of mercy to the world. And this devotee was saying to me, it's never been done before like this. This has never been done before, Anarpita. It's a unique thing in the world. It's the most precious thing. So we see that Srila Prabhupada took shelter of the words of his spiritual master, and he put his life and soul into the mission to bring it to the world, and now we also have the opportunity to do such a thing. And one person who decides in their heart that that's it, I surrender, I'm going to do this. That person becomes a beacon, a force of good for the whole world. And we have that ability to do that under the shelter of the great acharyas that we've been given. So, I'm looking out at all of you and just seeing the marvelous expansion of Srila Prabhupada's mercy through his great disciples who have taken this to heart and are expanding that mercy to people all over the world. And I, in your presence, now pray for your special blessings and consideration. You're all Vaishnavas. You have the power to bless others. So I ask you for your kind consideration and your blessings to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world and to fully take advantage of this Krishna consciousness movement and the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.